Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Unlocked Show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson. Always my pleasure to be here with you guys on another brilliantly sunny Gold Coast day here in Australia. So I'm excited to be here with you guys because the topic we're going to be talking about today, finding your niche. How the heck do you find a profitable niche to actually be able to align with your passions, but not only align with your passions, actually be able to make money from it? And I know that this is a really hot topic at the moment because there are so many people out there who are in the midst of trying to figure out what the heck they do for for their career or for a business moving into 2022. Hence the reason that I have asked this very special guest to be here with me today. Let me introduce you to Nathan Bynum. He is one of the youngest people that's actually been on the Unlock show, and we hunted him down because of the fact that he is, at the ripe old age of 25. He's already become a best-selling author. He's a certified goal success coach, and he's now actually teaching his audience of entrepreneurs how to systematically achieve their business goals by really honing in on their niche, which becomes that point of intersection between their passions and profits. And he actually shows them how to monetize their website by attracting their ideal clients. So you guys also know that I am the owner of Usability, which is a platform that helps people set up their websites, their funnels, and also their membership sites really, really fast. So I know that the things that Nathan is going to share with us today are going to help you guys too really hone in on what your niche market should be, and then how the heck do we create a website that you can monetize. So welcome to the show, Nathan. Fantastic to have you here, also from sunny Florida.
Thanks for having me on, Tracy.
You're very welcome. And he was asking me earlier about kangaroos, and I sort of burst the bubble. And, the myth of kangaroos being this really beautiful little animal that you could have as a pet. Yeah, heck no, you wouldn't want to have a kangaroo as a pet. It'd probably knock you out a few times, beside the fact that it's illegal to have them here as a pet anyhow. But anyway, we digress. Let's talk a little bit about your background. So in the time that you've been an entrepreneur, Nathan, kind of tell us a little bit about how you got started in this industry. What really drove you to want to be an entrepreneur, and how have you gone about positioning yourself as being an expert as far as creating a niche market and helping entrepreneurs also fine tune their niche market so that their websites can also be profitable? How'd that all start?
Yeah, so I guess to answer part of the question first is when my entrepreneurial mindset kind of kicked in was the ripe old age of 6 years old. And that's when we had just moved over to Hungary, Budapest. And we had a widget on our desktop computer that showed us how much the Hungarian forints to the US dollars, like all the exchange rates from that to different countries. And I would look at that and memorize that every day and think about how much I would make if I just traded those at different times. And I'm sure other people had thought about that, but I thought that I was like the originator of that idea. And then kind of fast forward to closer to today, I started kind of getting into the online stuff with eBay, because I feel like that's how a lot of people kind of get started, just like getting that feel of like those sales online coming in to your PayPal. And then I realized that I was trading my time for money a lot more than I wanted to, especially since I was still in school. And so I started doing some drop shipping through that same eBay store because I had built up all those reviews. And then I later started a website that it was the first one that I built myself. It was for local artisans in Florida, and they didn't have places to sell it online. And so I kind of got that together, and then school kind of got in the way. And then a couple years later, that brings us to last year, whenever I wrote my book and kind of built a new website around that. And then how it kind of led into what I'm doing now is I wanted to kind of niche down from that broad idea of goal setting and help entrepreneurs reach their goals, which are usually trying to get started is having that website built. And then the second goal after that is usually the monetization. So that's kind of how that all came back together today.
Fantastic. Well, clearly a smart little cookie at 6 years old, and you obviously had somebody in the family who had the computer and must have been, interested in that sort of thing for it to have caught your eye and sparked your attention. But then to take that, the next few steps forward and start, hang on a minute, there's something in this. What do I need to do to take action, to start, I suppose, what we would call the ripple effect and getting to the point where you're at today. And it sounds like it's been a real evolution, but over a very condensed space of time. It hasn't been decades. It's been a very short period of time. Like you say, I have a bit of a giggle when you say, school got in the road of you being able to get out there and really make some inroads and start creating your business. So when was that, like, as we move forward, one of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs or even business owners find really difficult is narrowing their focus down, narrowing their niche down. So let's talk about why that's been so important. Like, why don't you stay really broad? Why should somebody really narrow their niche in the first instance? Why is that an important factor?
Yeah, so there's some misconceptions about niches out there, and one of them is that competition is a bad thing. It's not, but you still have to kind of have that edge. You can't just be super broad and think that you're going to compete with all these people out there. And so you have to figure out like kind of what your unique value proposition is and hone in on just combining different things. I combined the goal setting because I had studied that for a while and wrote the book on that. And then I also knew a good amount about websites from doing them myself, and then also working for the local city doing their website. And so figuring out ways that you can kind of mesh different things together gives you a huge edge on people who are just focusing on one thing, because there's so many problems out there and people are going to be typing them in. They don't just type in like goal setting in Google.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually associated with something else. It's usually to solve a specific problem. So that's why if you're just super broad and you don't understand really who you're serving, then you're not going to be finding those people, because they're not going to be finding you. They're not going to be searching those huge broad things. They know what their problem is, and you just look back at whatever your search history is, like you'll see those specific questions. And so that's kind of why like you can start out with a broad idea, but then kind of hone in on something specific.
I actually really like that whole concept that you're talking about here of like, so what's uniquely you? Like, what are the things that you're really good at? And then saying, well, I'm good at that, that, and that. And maybe even just picking 2 or 3 things that you are, that you're passionate about, that you're good with, and actually combining them in to make a very unique value proposition. So I love that. And that's a fantastic way for people to be able to actually fulfill their passions, but also take their passion, their skill set, and their knowledge, combine that together, that actually then creates their unique value proposition. So I think that's a fantastic way of being able to do it. That covers a lot of ground, but also makes it very specific. One of the things that, and you're right, a lot of the time there is this misconception that if I niche down, I'm going to cut myself out of a lot of the market. So I'm going to cut off a lot of my opportunity, but also that I might be, setting myself up to be in direct competition with somebody else. And that strategy that you've just spoken through really does help you to create, what we would call your own blue ocean, so that you're not kind of stuck in with everybody else in a bunch of noise, so to speak. So when you start to drill down and you're looking at this niche market specifically, are there certain things that you have identified that are like, that's a really good niche market to go down. And even if it were combining a few things, and then there's the no-go zone, like over there, if you pick that as your niche market, you're pretty unlikely to make any money there. There's not a lot of profit in that market. Have you seen anything like that? Like, have you seen any particular markets that are really profitable and ones that perhaps aren't?
Yeah, there whenever I was like kind of trying to figure out getting in the mindset of people who I would be attracting, people who were kind of my ideal clients, I started kind of Googling different things that I thought that they might Google. So like top niches, like what is the most profitable niche and everything. And a lot of the lists on there had like financial advice, like investing, all this sort of stuff. And I think that people will see that and fall into a trap of just like being super broad starting out. And with those, like I'm saying that they're not profitable just because people are going to be starting out like just thinking, reading those articles that are ranking first on Google and seeing those and thinking, oh, well, I mean, I know how to invest. Like I can just start cranking out some stuff, but they don't kind of look at the how the other people who are huge right now started out. They started out very small. They didn't start out with like all these broad topics. And so I think that is a common thing in a lot of the areas, and like weight loss or just different areas in that too, is that they see those, they read that, and they think, oh, I can just attract all these people because everybody wants to lose weight. And they're not, again, understanding kind of like the having to look for specific people, look for those things. So in a way that is not profitable if you're kind of going that area, if you're doing it that way. I think a lot of it more comes down to how you approach it than if something is going to be profitable. I think it's more about the strategy that you use and the ideas going into that, and then figuring out first who you're going to serve. I think that's kind of what I've seen.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that, because I think that is spot on and super important. And a lot of the time, it's one of those points that a lot of people tend to skim over. They don't spend enough time really thinking about, who the heck do I want to help? Like, who am I here to serve? So, what are some of the things that you in your process that you've done that really helps people to understand, who should you be working with? Like, who do you want to wake up to every single morning and actually be there to serve? How do they do that?
Yeah, so I kind of advise people the same way that I started out whenever I was, before even this business, before I was just like writing my book. I would go into different like Facebook groups that were kind of in the same idea, the same range of what my niche wanted to be. And I would look at like common things. I would write down what people were saying, what people were asking, what people were excited about. I would go into different Facebook groups. I would look into LinkedIn groups and different forums. I looked at Quora a lot, if that's how you pronounce it. And then Reddit. And then another thing that I did, which is what like I've seen help a lot of people, is to also look at like the book reviews. And this isn't just about books. This is about any kind of product, and looking at what people didn't like about it, the problems that the book did not solve, because every product, whether it's a service or physical product or a digital product, it is there to solve a problem. So finding those overlaps, finding who is saying that, finding kind of like what is bad about the books, but also what is good, what people liked, and just kind of getting in that community. So that's killing kind of three birds with one stone, which is finding those people and figuring out like who that is, and kind of like the overlaps on the demographics. And the second one is kind of honing in on what you want to talk about, how you want to serve them. And then the third one is, it's if you write all that down, if you capture that, then you already have a lot of copy for your website.
I love that. I mean, that's a very what I like about this method, Nathan, is that it's very strategic and intentional, right? So, like you say, initially we're thinking about who the heck do I want to serve, but then spending time. This is like the research phase of spending enough time in that research phase that you actually get the information that you need to be able to narrow down and get very specific with your niche, because all these suggestions that you're making as to where people can go, I think the what did something solve or what didn't something solve is just as or almost more important than what something did solve, because if you then can go, well, hey, this is actually what people are looking for, this is what they want to achieve, but yet what's out there right now isn't solving that particular problem. And again, that process that Nathan spoke about around, what's my passion, who am I working with, and then looking at, well, what is the specific problem that I'm going to solve? Almost there, bingo, you've got your specific niche, right? Like I'm seeing the pattern that you are creating here or the system that you are creating to really narrow down what that niche is. And by using, I'm going to call it, just because we can today, the rule of three of like, what am I passionate about? What is the problem that I need to solve? And then maybe what is not being addressed right now in the current market. And then if you add those three things together, potentially you've got your really beautiful niche that you're able to go out to the market with. The next point that you made was like around the messaging or the way in which you put things together. So let's sort of take people a little bit further now and talk about, once you've got your niche, once you know the ideal client and the dream person that you're wanting to serve, what's the next step in the process? How do they get that message out there?
Yeah, so after you have all of that, the next thing that I advise is to just have that website, like build a website. And people kind of sometimes just like get intimidated by that because they don't know how to build a website. They don't know how to do all that. And they may wonder like how they're going to know how to do it perfectly. And they're like, well, there's all these things. But the thing is, you're always going to be adding on to it. You're always going to be honing in on that. And then this is the perfect time to do that because you kind of build that home base, that hub, and that you're bringing people to, you're directing them to. And from there, you have all these other outlets that you can do. But you're kind of building that community. You're building that awareness that you have that brand. You're learning as you're going and seeing, being able to look and like kind of do some testing on your website, testing with the wording. And all this is just adding to honing in on what you think that is going to be your long-term idea, what you think is going to be what you're going to be serving in the future. But you're figuring that out while you have that website and it's rudimentary and it's there and it looks pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's never going to be, because there's really no such thing, because you're always going to be adding.
You betcha. I build loads and loads of websites, and you're constantly going back to refine them and change them. So I would echo that now it's the best time to start get going. Is right now. Is like just to get something out there, create that. We call it, in my world, we call it the hive. But same thing. It's that hub. It's that central location that people can go to find out more about you, to buy your stuff, to continue a conversation with you if they so wish to. So really, really important piece of this puzzle. So if somebody is getting going and they are a little bit frightened of technology, because this is something like when it comes to like building out a website, a lot of people are afraid of that because they have their fear of technology. What would you say to somebody to help them, I suppose, overcome their fear of technology and get going? What are some of the things they can do?
I would say just like kind of playing around with it, starting and figuring it out. And two, it's not nearly as complicated as you probably think, because with all the tools that we have now, with like all the things that make it look super professional, and you're able to customize it like beyond what you can even imagine without touching code. Like, it's crazy like how much you're able to do. And to just get into a software, I would kind of steer away from like Squarespace and Wix and things like that, but just like getting into that and just understanding the basics of it, just like looking and just really just there's all sorts of videos out there that have good explanations for whatever you need to do. But without just like starting, even playing with it, you're going to be intimidated. That's how it is with anything. But once you get over that fear, it's not nearly as complicated as you might think.
Absolutely interesting, isn't it? You know, once you sort of you get going, and you can't really go wrong, can you? Like, if you make a mistake on it, so what? You redo it. It isn't, it's not the end of the world, which I absolutely love. And the technology piece, like you say, nowadays, with the different sites that are available that enable you to get up and running pretty quickly, and they're really intuitive. Particularly, of course, I have to mention, usability, which is my platform that that I use and that I own, is really, really easy to use. Hence the name usability, because it's very user friendly. So, as far as then taking it a step further, let's say somebody doesn't have, like, 'cause we know now, right, in this current climate that we're in, there are a lot of people who have recently left their jobs. And I think I read a study the other day that it's hundreds of thousands of people that are leaving their jobs every single month and wanting to do something new. And the way that we obviously get ourselves out there is you want to have some form of online presence. Does this, to get going and to monetize your site initially when you have no product, is that possible? Like, do you actually have to come up with an idea, a concept, creation of some sort, a service of some sort to get going and to monetize your site?
Yeah, you don't have to have created anything for that money to start coming in. One thing that you do have to do is to provide value to people in some way. And different people have different talents in different areas. So if you're a writer, then you'll probably lean more towards like blog posts or doing some kind of like write up, some kind of words. But if you're more into video, then you can start making like some videos that you put on YouTube, and then you link back to your site. And that's the value that you're providing. That's why people are listening to you, because there's so many people out there that are starting blogs or starting websites and just expecting people to come and to just like listen to them. But you have to start with that value first. And once you have that value in place, this is a simplified version of this, but that's when you can start using different products that you use, that you have some information with, and start using that affiliate links. And most people probably know what affiliate links are, but just the bare basic explanation is that there's a website that you have had some experience with, and you're an advocate for it. And so they want you to promote them, because word of mouth is like probably the most high converting way to market. And so people who are listening to you will click on those links that you have for whatever product or service that is, and you get a small commission with like no raise in the price to the people who are purchasing that. And so having that value is kind of how you start getting those eyeballs, start attracting people to it via whatever platform that you're using. And then the monetization comes in with those links, with whatever product or service you're promoting.
Absolutely. And you can team up with other people, like if they've got different products and services. Well, of course, they've got a product or a service that would be suitable to your audience. Of course, you can team up with them, partner with them, and also be able to promote their product potentially with a payment that's associated with it too. So the whole concept around getting up and getting going is not that difficult, right? We tend to overcomplicate the entire process. So if you think about what Nathan's had to say today, right? So we wake up today. I'm going to decide, who do I want to serve? Like, what do I want my world to look like? What do I want my days to look like moving forward now and well into the future? What do I want that to look like for myself? Who do I want to be working with? What skills, what knowledge, what expertise do I currently have? Then taking on board the suggestions that Nathan has made around the research. Go and do that research. Then find maybe those 3 points that intersect, that are your passion, your skills, your knowledge, and the pieces of the puzzle that are not currently being solved for somebody, and that becomes your niche market. Getting yourself up a website that talks about that particular, solves that very specific problem in a very unique way, right? So once you've got that, you then are able to build your website. You can do it, as Nathan says, in as little as 2 hours. Once you've got this information, get your website up and running. And even if you do not have a product and or a service to sell yourself, well, you may be able to offer some other people's products and services and be able to earn a commission based on that. So I love this concept because it really does help get people going really quickly without having to, I suppose, get stuck in that mouse wheel of what am I going to create? How am I going to create it? What should it look like? And often a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck there, and therefore it takes them a long, long time to get their information out. Given that you're, ripe old age of 25 years old and have been able to do this really quickly, that just goes to show that if you're able to do it, then others are able to adapt and adopt this particular process too. You also talked about, once you're doing this whole concept of delivering value. Let's talk about that in some detail. Like, what would you consider being valuable information? And obviously there's a number of different ways in which people can go about it. You talked about video, you've talked about, writing a blog. But what are some of the things that are really important that people add into their, and we're going to talking about free information, right? This is not paid. This is just leading with value, giving away free stuff. And I've often heard people say, I don't want to give my best stuff away for free. What is your view on that?
So there are a lot of ways that you can go with this, but just the thinking with this in mind is going to help you, like, with whatever you decide to do. And this is that people are looking for a transformation, and it can be a small transformation, but one that they can see that progress in. And you have to keep in mind that a lot of people if they get something free, they don't have a lot of stock into it, and they're gonna get distracted. It's probably one of 20 tabs open on their browser if they're anything like me, and they're gonna forget about it. So to really build that first relationship with them, it needs to be kind of a small transformation so that they're able to stick with it quickly. And one of the things that I've done, and that's what kind of got me into realizing how profitable affiliate marketing could be, was I built a course for how to build a website in just 2 hours. And that's what kind of got me in the door, because a lot of people reached out to me, like on LinkedIn and different places, and they were asking me questions about it. And people who were talking to me, like, I was kind of giving them all that information and just like talking about it and then kind of walking them through it. And I was also able to, like, hey, if you want to, like, just use my affiliate links if you're going to kind of go down this route. And so kind of building those courses is one of those things that it's another thing that's a lot easier to do if you're doing it in a small way, a small, like, 5-day transformation or something, because we often undervalue all the knowledge that we have, because it seems just like so part of who we are that we just kind of ascribe that to other people, like, oh, they know how to do this. But just finding, once you have those like things that people in your niche, your ideal niche, need, figuring out how to give them that transformation is really the idea of providing that value. And like we said, it could be all sorts of different platforms that you can use to do that. But just keeping that in mind is going to take you far.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you talked about that you're talking about transformation, because I think one of the things that is very common these days is that people go to do a course. What am I going to get? What are the worksheets, the videos, the etc. that I'm going to get? And they forget about what's the actual transformation I'm going to get. So I start this program, being one way, and by the time I'm finished it, and it doesn't matter how big or small that program is, am I actually going to come out the other end a better person, knowing something more, being able to, increase my skill set, be more confident, whatever the case is. What does that transformation actually look like? So I love the fact that you're speaking my language. The other is that we want to make sure that we're giving people a quick win. So I think this is something I want to stress, because Nathan's talking about this and making sure that we're giving away really good value, but enabling people to be able to take that and implement it as fast as possible. Because you're absolutely right, 20 tabs. Yep, I'm looking at my screen and I often have at least 20 tabs. You've usually got 100 things on the go. We're busy people. And nowadays we have humans have less attention span than a goldfish, which is quite interesting. A goldfish has I think it's 8 seconds. We've got less than that. And it's because of all the information that's coming at us thick and fast. And so therefore we suffer terribly from shiny object syndrome. So being able to give people a very quick win, something they can do immediately, go away and make and implement that change, that gives them that small transformation, and bit by bit they will continue to have those transformations with you. The other point that I wanted to make is that you mentioned this, that you're on LinkedIn, and as you started talking about this particular topic, how to create your website in less than 2 hours, you started getting lots and lots of questions. And this is often a clue, right? It's one of those clues that tells us, hey, that's something you should be doing. So one of the things that we could, the advice I would give to a lot of people out there, maybe you're starting out, just think about what are some of the questions that you get asked on the regular, whether it's from friends, family, acquaintances. If people are contacting you and asking you questions about something in specific, then that's often a clue that, hey, they see you as an expert in that area, and you've got a skill that other people want to know about. And like you say, often we dismiss those things thinking that everybody knows how to do that. Like, it's not that big of a deal, not really realizing how much time and effort it's taken you to know, learn, and understand that particular piece of information to be able to implement it and get a result. Vast difference between, being able to implement that info, get a result, than just knowing the information, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So in terms of like how people, I mean, obviously one of the things that is really important for people is to have their online presence, right? And I believe that this is valuable for everybody, whether you've got a product and a service, or you don't have a product and a service, but you're actually wanting to create the brand of you. So it might be, the brand of Tracy Wilson, or the brand of Nathan Bynum. Like, we need to have that hub website that actually showcases who you are and what you're about. Because I guarantee you might not think it's valuable to you today, but even if you don't have your own business right now, and in 5 years' time you want to start one, guess what you've got? You've already created yourself a hub where people can start knowing about you, and it will accelerate your process. So if somebody wanted to know more about how to get started on creating their own website, Nathan, where's the best place for them to go to learn more about you?
Yeah, they can go to lemonlaunch.com/2-hour website.
Let me pop that on here. So it's lemonlaunch.com/2-hour website.
Yeah.
All one word?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and
All
that'll
right, guys.
kind of walk them through that process.
Well, let's make sure we pop that up on the screen. So there you go, guys. So lemonlaunch.com/2-hour website. Is that correct? What I've got there with the number 2, or is it?
Oh yeah, that's correct. And then it's website.
Oops, website. Sorry. Let's get that spelling correct. One moment, please. Here we go. Web. There we go. That's a bit better. Oh, have I got that right? Hang on a sec.
Yeah, and that will kind of walk them through the process of getting them through all those uncomfortable moments of thinking that you have to be some kind of tech wizard to figure out how to launch your own website, when it's really a lot easier than a lot of people think.
Well, brilliant. So, guys, head on over to lemonlaunch.com/2-hour website. If you don't currently have your website up and running, go and check Nathan's stuff out and he'll show you how to do it in less than 2 hours. I want to say thank you very much for being an awesome guest today, Nathan, and sharing your wisdom, your experience of how you've done this. I really love how succinct it is, very specifically and very strategic focus, which I absolutely love. And I want to say I'd love to have you back as a guest a little bit further down the track, and maybe we can take this conversation a little bit further. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with our audience today to wrap today's show up that you think is like really, as important, or even just a piece of advice that you'd like to share in parting words?
Yeah, something that we were talking about a little bit earlier kind of triggered this with the starting, like just getting out there and doing it, is an analogy that I just absolutely love, which is thinking about you have your goal in mind, you put it into the GPS where you want to go, and it's not telling you which way to go on the road until you start moving, because it doesn't know exactly where you are. But if you just start getting a little bit of momentum, then you're able to kind of correct. Even if you start going the wrong way, you're able to find that path, and there's not just one path to that success that you're looking for, whatever that may be there. But if you just stay there, then you're not ever going to figure out how to get there from just the strategy, just figuring out all these little steps, because it's going to change. There's going to be roadblocks. There's going to be things that you have to pivot. So just getting that momentum and then going in some direction, you're going to get there a lot quicker.
I love that. So there you go, guys. You've heard it here. You just got to get going. Nathan's absolutely right. You cannot be, your life is not going to look any different tomorrow if you don't get started. So the first step is just put one foot in front of the other, get going, create yourself some momentum, and start working your way towards the success path that you are trying to create. So I also wanted to share with you guys, if you want to get your website up and running, I want to offer you guys a free 14-day free trial. If you would like to use Usability as your website platform, you are most welcome to go and get yourself a free trial over at usability.com, spelled YOUZABILITY.com. Get yourself a 14-day free trial and utilize Nathan's process to get your website up and running in less than 2 hours. You'll be able to do it on that site. I'm sure Nathan's got some other sites that he can also direct you to. So there's multiple of them out there. But of course, as the host of the show and the owner of Usability, it would be remiss of me to not share a free link with you so that you can have a trial and get yourself up and running as fast as possible. All right, guys, I want to say thanks very much for joining us here today. Been here with my very special guest, Nathan Bynum, and I'm looking forward to continuing to watch his journey, because I know he is definitely an entrepreneur to keep our eyes on. With an attitude like he's got, there's no way that he won't be anything but successful. So keep your eyes peeled for what Nathan's got to come. And also, Nathan, we better let everybody know your book. Where can they get a copy of it? What's it called, and where can they get a copy?
Yeah, it's called Goal Setting: Habits to Achieve Your Goal and Succeed in the Life You Want. And you can just type in my name on Amazon and then it should pop right up.
Well, there you go, guys. Go and get yourself a copy of Nathan's book. Head on over to Amazon, type in his name, spelt NATHAN Bynum is how you would spell Nathan's name, so that you're able to get a copy of his goal-setting book, and you can start creating the life that you're absolutely going to love. Thanks very much for joining me here today, Nathan. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. Enjoy the rest of the sunshine. I'm sure it's a sunny day there in Florida. That place is always sunshine. I love going to Florida, and I hope to be back there again sometime soon. Thanks for joining me. Thanks everybody else for joining us today, and we'll see you back again with another episode of The Unlocked Show next week at 10 a.m. Brisbane time. Have a fantastic week, and bye for now.